Hello, and today we are gonna be downloading the Unity, and specifically we are gonna be installing Unity 2019.4 LTS version, meaning which has long-term service. For the reason why this one and not the newer versions is actually the stability, and the stability is well. For Unity, it's well known that the stability isn't the best, and the best stability is actually the long-term supported products. So let's switch over to the website where we can download. I suggest to download the Unity Hub so you can actually install multiple versions of different Unities, however you find it more fit. So let's click on it. It will download. Also, it is relatively quick download because it's just a launcher. And when we click and run it, yes, I want to install it. I agree. This installation is fine by me, and so I quickly here install it and don't really need to do anything else. Finish. Again, this installation is specifically for Windows right now. For Mac OS, there might be some different editions. This one, however you like it. I simply accepted the default options, and here when it first opens it says no Unity version, so we need to actually add it, and when we click on add there is multiple versions, and the one we want is actually 2019.4, and that doesn't matter what the ending version is, it's simply the bug fixes. This doesn't actually add any more new features. It's really rarely adds new features after those, whether the version is 4.9 or 4.1, the difference is mostly bug fixes. And after that you can add different modules. Here it allows Microsoft Visual Studio, by default it's off. I will create a separate video about how to install that one separately, but here the default options is like you can see if you look at it, it already includes the Windows build support, specifically CPP. If you want, you can make an also Mac build support to add. If you are working on Mac, it might make your life easier. And also there is Android build support and iOS. You may turn them off as you need or don't need them. Usually it's good if you have like the basics covered, like Android, iOS, Mac, and Windows, and web will be also. The other ones, like Universal Windows Platform, is more specific whether you wanted to use it or not, and then you can actually decide it. You can actually change those settings later, so you don't have to actually worry about it. And documentation is usually a good thing to have also an offline accessible. Things like tvOS is more experimental. Linux is, well, if you're making a really big game, you might want to have an export to Linux also to support. And Lumin is again a highly specific platform. Other than that, here is nothing. We continue. We have to accept some areas, and yes. And this part might actually take some time, so basically we can sit down, have a coffee, and wait till it finishes, or read a book, or watch a YouTube video. Well, if it's downloading, it's usually a little bit hard to watch it at the same time, but you can even play a game if you want, if you have on a computer. Okay, now that we have finished the installing, well, I did install the iOS and Mac. In reality, well, for Mac it's fine, but iOS specifically rarely is built on PCs. Usually you use the Mac for building iOS because of its uh, le- legal consequences, where iOS actually forces you to use actually Mac to build uh, iOS tools. There are ways to work around it, but they are complex and not the easiest. So therefore, we will focus on right now. We won't focus neither on HTML either. We will focus on Windows and Android build. So for that, we go here and here we see add modules. Here we can actually remove and add the different parts as needed, and we don't really have to technically worry about if we got things wrong on our first try. We can actually fix it and it will update accordingly. Now here is one interesting part is actually Android build support. It has actually two parts, separately OpenJDK and Android SDK and NDK tools. Usually before that you actually had to go outside that to install them, so you actually had to go to the Android place to actually download the correct version and in order to install tools. Now they are basically integrated on installation, and because you need to use a specific version, even though there is updated options for that version, it doesn't accept without a little hack those updated versions, and you cannot access the old version from the Android side. So it makes it a little bit difficult to do installation on Android otherwise. But this new, relatively recently, I don't remember if it's this version or version before, they started doing a little bit differently where they actually included all those installations. And the other one is OpenJDK, which is actually Java, but because Java had some Oracle changed the licensing agreement, so now there is an alternate. Well, it's still Java, but the development kit is now open version, and then there is a non-open version toolkit exists. So this one, and we installed both of them installed already. So we simply go here now, projects, and click on new. So we can actually, when we click on new, or here we can clicking on arrow, we can actually choose the version if we have multiple. And here we can create multiple projects. I'm currently gonna be just taking this 3D and nothing else, in the sense that while these ones will be in the long term, it might be a faster stepping stone. We need as light as possible to just to test whether our system has is working, in the sense that it's able to build for Windows and Android. It might take a little bit time to launch it, and especially if you pick one of those below ones options. But basically, yeah, it takes time. Okay, now that we have accessed it, it will open up this way. It might look a little bit different for you because I might have in memory, I have used it before, so it might have some in memory settings specified different for you. Now that we have this sample scene, we can actually quickly create and go to the build settings, and we can always access the kind of player settings if we want, or the project settings for specific version. But inside here, we can see that we have set up, and we can make a quick build and run. I will create quickly here new, so I know that for PC to work, it basically has to create a project. Whether it runs it or, well, technically we don't care if it runs it, we just wanted to build it for now. That's the most important one. If it cannot run it, it might have other issues also, but the first initial expression is by if it compiles it, it's probably good to go. And as you can see, it compiled, and now it actually launched it and it runs, and it's an empty scene, so nothing here. So now I click Alt F4 so I can actually close this one. And now that I have closed it, I want to go to the Android, and I actually want to switch the platform. The default options are going to be fine for me. What I do want to have is, after switching a platform, it will probably build and run for me fine, but if you have any issues, then under Edit Preferences, it will open such a window here for you. And here under External Tools, there is a specific section for Xcode, which is one of the code editors, alternative to Visual Studio. For like, there is a Visual Studio for Windows, there is Xcode for Mac. So this is specifically for iOS and tvOS settings, but the other specific settings are interested are Android here. So if you're not certain, if you have installed it everything like accordingly initially by using the defaults, then you can simply make sure that all the ticks here appear, and this will use the one which is installed by default. If you didn't install the build support tools by default, in that case you will have to specifically say for each row where these folders are located for each specific version. Interesting aspect is that you may reuse this JDK, which comes with Unity. You can reuse it, for example, for Unreal also, which actually doesn't install by default things, so you actually have to do a separate installation. So you can actually use this way as an option. Okay. And it actually now switched by this time, so we can actually quickly build and run. I will say here, no, actually it's great here and Android. Okay, Android. And it will start creating it. You cannot probably run it because I would say it's checking devices, and it won't find any device. So it will say your retry, so you need to actually connect your phone, because emulators have issues running any sort of games made by Unity or Unreal. So using an emulator might be a bit hard, but it works quite well on when you're having a debug phone set up properly. Debug phone means it's actually a developer unlocked the phone, so in that case you can fully use it and sideload APKs, so to speak, on it and test the tool. And I click OK because the reason it failed is just because I don't have phone connected, but it did compile to that phase. So we can actually now close it, and that's basically for it related to installation.